to those of you who are joining us for the first time today. I am Kristen Ramstad, and I manage the Urban and Community Forestry Assistance Program at the Oregon Department of Forestry. So just like last week, I'd like to start this by saying a few words while everyone is settling in and getting online. So first, I want to let everyone know we are still working on posting last week's webinar onto the ODF YouTube channel. Once that happens, the link to it will be found on the ODF Urban Forestry webpage. Same as with today's webinar when it also gets posted. At this time, however, at ODF, the public affairs staff are a little short-staffed, and they are also being pulled in many directions, as you can imagine. So we are being a little patient. So some of you may be thinking, what are the next steps to getting started using the Tree Plotter Inventory platform after today's webinar? Suffice it to say, in these pandemic times, things have changed the way I initially pictured the rollout of the software. So here's the plan. To everyone who has viewed these webinars, I will be sending out what I call an intake form. This is not going to be an application form requesting permission to use the software because it's free for everyone to use. Basically, it's a form that captures information specific to your community's plans to use the software and the resources that you will be bringing to the project in terms of time, people, technology, whatever you've got. I want to do this for two reasons. First, as you can imagine, every community is different. Some will be ready to start as soon as they get their login info. Others will have no idea how to start and may need a little guidance at first. Some communities will understand the tech, but not the trees. Others will know how to look at the trees, but may be flummoxed by the tech. So the info on the form will help us to help you, as they say. The second reason for the form is to formally ask and hopefully to have you or your city formally agree that you will be keeping track of the number of hours you and people using the software in your city will be using the software. Since this project is currently fueled by federal grant funding, it means that I will need to write periodic progress reports. And the amount of time the software is being used is data that I would like to report on. Tracked hours is also helpful information to urban forestry staff, and changes can be indicative of conditions that ODF urban forestry staff can help or assist your city with. As the restrictions ease around the pandemic, and even now, urban forestry staff can meet you on site, particularly if your site is within an easy day's drive of our offices. We, of course, would keep a distance, wear a mask, all that stuff. But we can do things like help you identify trees or do some simple software guidance or troubleshooting in the field. Starting in July, we will be bringing on a part-time, short-term outreach person to assist us in helping you get the most out of the software. We are also planning to host a Zoom meeting, probably every other week or so, where people can log in to discuss triumphs and challenges with the software, and of course, we will be available to you guys individually. So I think everyone attending this meeting probably has arrived. So let's move on to Charlie's demonstration today. Today, Charlie Flesch, who is the head of Tree Plotter Customer Support at Planet Geo, will be reviewing how to get started on the demo site, and then we'll be showing off some of the other features of the software, such as charts and graphs and how to generate a simple management plan report. He will also touch on how to export the data for cities that have inventories, demonstrate the tree tour feature, and if we have time, how the crosswalking of the data works. Like last week, please type your questions into the Q&A box and I will read them aloud to Charlie at the end. So without further ado, let's get started. So thank you, Charlie.
Thanks, Kristen. Okay, let me share my screen, make sure that's gonna come through. All good there?
It's good with me.
Okay, yep, then I think everyone else should be able to see as well. Okay, well, welcome back everyone. If you were here last week, or welcome if this is your first time. This is going to be your Tree Plotter homepage here, where what you'll see every time you come to this URL here showing at the top. And again, just a quick reminder, this URL can be reached on any device, desktop, phone, or tablet. We do recommend using Google Chrome, but you can use any other browser that you like to use. And again, we'll send out, we sent out last week, but we'll also send out a follow-up email to this webinar with the URL and then instructions for logging on to the demo user. And with that user, you'll be able to add trees, play around with the details forms and uploading data, exporting and reporting, all the stuff that we'll touch on today, you can do with that demo user. And again, we'll send that information and the login information out as a follow-up to the webinar. So let me log in. Again, the login button will be up here on the upper right. And that's how all of the users will log in. And so today we're going to go over, Kristen mentioned, some reporting, exporting of data, a cool feature that that the cities will be able to use that we call tree tours. And then at the end, we'll touch on using the uploader tool, which allows cities to bring data into the system. So for reporting, you'll see right now we are actually looking at Eugene's tree data that we have already been working with and have loaded into the system. And so we're dealing with these 101,000 trees that we have uploaded for Eugene. And so now I'm going to go up into the hub section here in the upper left. And we're going to start with the stats and reports here. And in these two sections here, you can just get at some pre-made numbers as well as charts and graphs for the data that you're looking at. And if you remember last week, we touched on the advanced filter, which allows you to filter down your data using any of the fields in the tree details form. All of the stats, reports, and charts are all dependent on that advanced filter. So it allows you to really get at custom subsets of your data. Or if you want, in this case, I'm just looking at all of the Eugene trees. So all of my numbers and charts will reflect all of the Eugene data that's in the system. So in the stats section here, we have the first one here is just by the numbers. This will give you just quick numbers up here at the top as well. If you want to get at specific percentages of specific species, you can choose one and you'll get a count and then a percentage of the total. So these are just numbers that you can use to fill out reports or use in whatever means you want. But the charts and graphs section here are split up into these sections, and each section here can be expanded upon. So let me just click on tree diversity. And so again, these are the pre-made charts that we've built into the system, and they are dependent on your filters. So this top 10 genus chart is again specific to just the Eugene trees that we are looking at. You can look at each chart as either pie, bar, or tabular, which is kind of just like a spreadsheet view by clicking these tabs across the top. And you can also export these charts as an image or data printouts with these little 3 buttons here. So again, if you scroll through, most common species we have built in, species by land use. If you have trees that don't have some of this data filled in, those charts will just show up blank. But as you fill in that data and build a more robust data set, the charts and graphs will follow with more robust data. And so these are, I would recommend just going through and seeing if there's charts and graphs in these different sections that are important to you. And again, you can always pick specific ones and pull them out for your own needs and uses. right under the charts and graphs is the ecosystem benefits. And again, this will work with advanced filter and will just apply to the trees that we're looking at in the map. And so these are just some numbers that we pull from iTree's National Tree Benefit Calculator. And we're actually currently working with iTree on some updated numbers, and there will actually be additional summaries included with the updates. But so these are just some quick numbers on monetary benefits of the trees in the system. And these do require that the tree have a defined species, DBH, and land use value. If it doesn't have all three of those populated, it won't be able to pull any information for the ecosystem benefits. And so all of these stats here are going to also be included in some of the reports that I'm about to show, including a management report that we've been working on with Kristen and the Oregon team that you guys will be able to use. And it's kind of a custom report specific to Oregon and the cities there. So go ahead and show that. So as under the stats will be the report section. And then again, there's a few different sections within the reports. But first, I'm just going to start with the chart reports. And within the chart reports, you can have, there's a few different options in the dropdown. What I'm going to show right now is the management plan. And this is the one that I just mentioned. So, but with any of the reports, it's kind of works the same way, where you'll choose the report you want to run. In this case, management plan. If you want to give it a title, you can. So you could say Eugene trees here. You want to leave the applied filter check. If you have any filters, that will include them in the report building. And then you'll just click run report. And you'll notice that we'll actually pop over to a new tab. And so every time this will create a new tab, it'll actually also create a URL that you can use and paste to other people or send in an email. And other users, even if they don't actually have access to the tree plotter inventory, will be able to have access to this report and see all of the numbers and charts that are in this report. So I'll quickly go through what we've kind of set up with this management plan report, and then I think Kristen will touch a little bit on how she sees cities using it and kind of our process and decisions we made in making it. But so up the top here, we have this overview. And actually, let me start by saying that there's kind of a bunch of different sections, and all of the sections can be hidden or shown if you want to show them in either a saved version or a printout version by just clicking the hide button in the upper right corner. So there's a quick little overview up here at the top, which you can edit any of this text. This is kind of the boilerplate text we put in, but any of it can be edited by clicking the little pencil icons here, or hidden again altogether by clicking the hide button. Again, we have counts at the top, so this kind of mimics some of the by the numbers sections we just saw. And then we split the charts and graphs into different subsections. So the first one will be location. We get land use, growing space. And again, in this data set for Eugene, they didn't actually have any land use data populated, which is why it is showing as 100% not specified. So in cases like this, you could always just hide that chart if it's not really useful to you. All of the different sections also have a notes portion at the bottom that, again, you can add additional notes to your plan or report by clicking the pencil button and typing directly in there. Again, so species, we have this top 10 species chart, a list over here on the right. We have our notes, size and structure. And again, I'm quickly going through this, but you guys will all be able to log in with a test account and see and have access to this management plan if you want to come look at it later. The last thing I was going to touch on was just the ecosystem benefits. So those benefits are also showing down here at the bottom, and you get all of those numbers. So that is kind of our management plan that we've been building. Kristen, did you want to touch on anything else in regards to that?
Um, I guess all I want to say is that the idea behind this management plan would be either to form the basis of a larger expanded management plan that you would be working from, or in my viewpoint, it could be used to show to your city decision makers, to show to your, folks who just need an overview of what's going on with your community trees and how you intend to address some of the issues. That's why each section has a place where you can write notes. And then when the time comes, you can print it off and make it available, or make it available by sending out a link to it or something. So the idea is that as you build your inventory data, you will have the capacity or the ability to start using it, and to start using it to make decisions with, and to communicate the decisions that you're making, or the challenges that you're facing, as the case may be.
Okay, thank you. So like I said, we're in an actually separate tab from our tree plotter application, and that's how the management plans and reports will always show up, as a separate tab. So I'm going to tab back over to the application. And so again, you can kind of test out these different charts and reports that you can run. All charts here will just take all of the charts and graphs in the system and give you a full report with all of those. The dashboard ones will be the ones that have been pinned to the dashboard, so marked as kind of important charts. And then if we go down to the tree reports, this will look similar with the drop down and then the run report button. But again, feel free to test these out. We have the options for 1, 2, 3, or 6 trees per page. So this will give you additional information about a tree. So if you have 1 tree per page, you're getting a lot of information to fill a full page about the tree, versus 6, you're just getting a few fields about each tree. So you have 6 different trees all filling a single page. So again, feel free to play around with these. Let's just run, just the one, just to show what it looks like. So I'll choose 1 and hit run report. And so it has a similar look to the management plan you'll see, but we'll get your tree ID, then tree detailed information, location information. If you have photos added to the tree, they'll show up. Otherwise, you can get a street view that comes from Google, or a map view that again comes from Google based off the point. And so because this is, again, the 1 per page, we're getting a lot of information. So each tree will fill 1 page when you print it out or save it as a PDF. That's how those will look.
Again, this information is only as good as the information about your city that has been entered. So that last one happened to choose a tree that did not have a genus or species attached to it. That's not going to be
right.
That's not just in every report. That's for that specific tree, for which for whatever reason didn't have that information in. Probably because it was dead, I see. So.
So that's the tree report section there. Under that will be the tree matrix reports. And this is kind of a cool feature. It allows you to compare 2 fields on a matrix. So in this case, we have condition DBH range selected, and you can just choose generate matrix. It'll actually generate this matrix for counts. You can also get percentages for, in this case, condition versus your DBH range, and so sizes. And then last is the work history activities reports. And so this is related to if you plan on tracking work that was done on the trees. This will generate a quick report for that work that you've tracked against the trees. I don't think we've actually, nothing has been tracked so far on these uploaded data sets, so these will just return blank at this point. But like Christian said, as you populate the data with, or populate the system with more additional data, these reports will get more robust. Okay, so that is going to be all of the reporting and stats will live over here within the hub stats and reports section. Now I'm just going to quickly touch on exporting data out of the system. And that is going to live, again, within the hub with the data tools and exporter. And so the exporter tool allows you to export data out either in a CSV or a shapefile format. So a CSV you would bring into Microsoft Excel or Sheets, a spreadsheet system, and a shapefile you can bring into like a GIS system. And again, this works in conjunction with the advanced filter, so you can always filter down to a very specific park, all trees that are dead, all trees of a specific species, and then export out just that subset of your data. So you'll, yep, go ahead, Kristen.
So just to be clear, this is primarily for cities that already have tree data that they're loading into the system. If you're using the system to start your inventory with, it will be automatically, use this system.
Yep.
So, and again, this is one of those things that we will certainly help you with. It's not like one and done, you're on your own. We'll help you with this. And I think the other thing to make people aware of is that in the CSV file, you also need location data. So some lat long points, right?
Yep. So if you're bringing trees into the system with a CSV file, you will need a lat and long columns. If you're using a shapefile, that's kind of already built into the shapefile spatial data, so you won't need that in that case. And also, I'll quickly show the uploader tool at the very end, but that's kind of the opposite of this tool, the exporter, which takes data out. The uploader allows you to bring data into the system. But it's a pretty simple tool. You just choose the type you want. You select the layers. So typically you're going to choose the trees layer if you want to export out your work history, which is what I just mentioned as if you want to add work tasks that you've done on the tree, you can export out that or the inspections as well. So you choose your layer, I'll choose trees. You can give it a name if you want. Then you just hit export, and then you can work with your data or manipulate it in a different system if that is what you need to do. So that is the exporter. Next, we are going to, we're going to come back to the uploader at the end, but next we're going to actually go into this tree tours functionality, and that is going to be available to city admins and then admin users to be able to build these tree tours. But once you build the tree tour, it'll be accessible by anyone with access to the system or with the link. So you can also send out the link or put it on your website, and people will be able to see the tour that you've built. And so what I'm going to be going over today is that building process. And then I'll just show a quick example of what kind of the finished tree tour looks like once it's been built in the system. So for the admin users, you'll be able to find the builder under Map Tools and Tree Tour Builder. If you want to create a new one, you would just create new. I'm just going to work with this one that I had just created, or if you are editing an existing one, you can just click Edit here. And so you'll get a new pop-up. One thing that's nice is that you can kind of work on your tour, build it out, add stops, add photos, and you don't have to publish it until you're completely ready for it to be seen by the public. So it'll start in this not published state, but when you're ready to publish it and have kind of the URL and link be live, you just switch this to published, and then that will be live. But for now, I'll just leave that not published. So you can give your tour a name. Kristen came up with some ideas of tours that you might use, like in terms of might want to do a tour of hazard trees that you want to show, or significant or important trees in your city. So you can give the tours different names based on what you want to show.
Can I clarify that for a second? You might want to do a tour of, say, high-risk trees for certain decision makers in your city to let them know these are the trees that we are thinking of doing significant work on or that need to be removed, so that they can go out and understand the problems actually in the field. Making a tree tour like that available to the general public is probably not the best idea, but for decision makers and for people whom you need to have understand why you make the decisions you do, it could be very useful.
Yep. And if you want to do, you can add a logo URL, which will just show up in the corner of your tree tour. Just a little additional customization to the tour if you want to do. And then you can also give the overall tour a description. So we'll just say important trees in my city. And we'll see where all of this kind of comes into play once you look at the saved tour. And so below all of the top details will be a list of all of your tour stops. And so these will be all of the trees that you want to highlight in your tour. And so I have one already in here. And if you have any stops in there, you can edit them or delete them with these buttons. But let's go ahead and add a tree tour stop, and you'll see how that is done. So again, this works in conjunction with your existing inventory. And so you can kind of zoom the map around, get to the area. If maybe you're just working with a single park or single area, you'll want to zoom to the trees you want to add as stops, and then you'll click add stop. You get the little pop-ups giving you a little bit of help determining what to do next. But basically, once you've started adding stops, when you click on a tree point, it'll add it as a stop to your tour. So I'll click OK here. And for example, I want this tree here to be a stop on my tree tour. I just click on it. You get that new stop added pop-up. And now we have this blank, there's no images with it, stop on the tour. So I can click edit, give this stop a name. So if you want to, if the trees have specific names, or if you want to just say stop 1, stop 2, or if you want to name them by the species name, lots of different options of ways you can kind of set these up. I'm just going to go ahead and say stop 2. Again, you can add a description for your each of your stops and add photos, images to all of your stops. Let me just pull up another image so we can see something. And you'll see the image comes in. Again, you can add multiple images to a single stop if you would like as well. So I'm going to just click save and close. And now you'll see that my tour has my tree 1 stop. And I call these kind of different things, so you'd want to probably be consistent with your naming of your stops, but you get the idea. And then stop 2 with the photos. So again, the whole building of the tour is pretty simple, just adding stops, editing those stops, adding photos and descriptions. So again, feel free to play around with the building of those. But if you want to, right now, again, this is not published. I can still, as an admin, once I'm in this edit screen, launch the tour just to see kind of what it would look like if it was published. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the tour. And so this is what most of the kind of the overall format will look the same. This is the name of the tour. I just had it called new, so that's why it's just new here. Learn more about new is going to be the additional information or description for the stop. So that information will show there. If I had added that URL or logo, it would show up here in the upper right. And then if I scroll down, I will get all of the trees in a map format here, and then along the bottom, kind of in a scroll bar format down here at the bottom, you can click through the different stops here. They'll zoom to them on the map. They'll show the tree image up here in this screen. If you can get additional info if you've added those descriptions in by getting more info. If you have additional photos for the stops, there'll be options to click through all the photos for each stop. And then again, you can use the map if you want. Zoom around, click around. You can click on your tree, on your stops on the map as well. And then again, here's what the link will look like when once you've published the tour, and then that will be live that you can either have users access it through Tree Plotter or through the URL, either way. If they are accessing the tree tour through the Tree Plotter application, they won't actually have this tree tour builder option. If they're not an admin, they'll just have the tree tours section here, and a list of all of the published tours will be underneath, and you can access or launch the tree tour viewer, which would be this tab here. Okay, so let's close out of this. And then, so the last thing I want to go over is the uploader tool. And so again, this is the tool that I think most often it sounds like Kristen is going to either be doing herself and with her team or working with you guys in the different cities to bring data into the system with this uploader tool. We're just going to quickly show you kind of how it works, get an idea of what it looks like and how the data is crosswalked into the Tree Plotter system. So that is under the data tools section of the hub and called Uploader. Once you click Open Uploader, you get to this new screen, and this it mostly walks you through the process with the instructions up at the top. And we do have additional videos and walkthroughs on our support site. Working with these big data sets, it can get a little complicated. Again, Kristen and her team is always available and willing to help. But I have kind of just a sample data set here that I've pulled from Portland that I'm going to walk through quickly now. And that data set I have saved as a shapefile. Again, you can also use a CSV with latitude and longitude included. In this case, I have a shapefile, so I'm going to just click Shapefile. You can choose which city you're going to upload the data into. So in this case, I'm just going to upload it into the test data. Once all of the cities are added in the application, all of the city names will show up here. And so you'll just choose your city name from the dropdown. So I'm then going to click Next down here. Again, this is just prompting me that the shapefile will need to be in a zipped format with all of the standard files within it. So I already have that set up, so I'm just going to click Next. And then you get the option to upload your file. So you just click Choose File, navigate where on your computer you have it saved. I have it right here in my downloads. And then I'll just click Upload. So this step is kind of bringing the data into the system and showing you a quick sample of where the data is showing up. This is a really nice step because it will stop you if you're not seeing any red points, or if you're seeing these red dots in a city where you're not expecting, there's something wrong with maybe the Latin long or the shapefile. Something's not working right. So it's just a good first check before you go into the crosswalk step that these red points are going to show up. I pulled the sample data from Portland, so this is looking good. They're showing up in Portland. So that's a good sign that I'm ready to move on to the crosswalk step. So I'll go ahead and just click Next. And so this is kind of the meat of the uploader tool, where most of the time is spent when you're bringing the data in. And I'll quickly just kind of orient you to what everything is. So the source over here, this is a list of all of the columns, any like in the attribute table, or like the just columns in the spreadsheet basically, from the upload data. So this is everything that the upload data included. And then over here on the right is all of the fields that we have set up in Tree Plotter. And so basically what you will want to do is match the fields that you want to bring over from the left from your upload data to a field that exists in Tree Plotter. And then certain fields, you'll see you have to kind of work differently to bring them across into Tree Plotter. So some fields will be really easy to bring across. For example, number fields or note fields, those you can just copy your existing data right over into a new field. So let's show that. For example, DBH is a good example. So I'll click, I want my DBH column for my source data to be mapped to the DBH field in Tree Plotter. So I'll click one and then the other, and then you just click this arrow up at the top. And again, we have a similar format here, but this is actually showing the raw data from my source. And in my destination, these are just all of the destination values that exist in Tree Plotter. But again, like I said, for these number and text values, you can just click copy, and it just takes all of your data and copies it over into the DBH field in Tree Plotter. And then I can just click done with this field. And you see I get a little check box, meaning I'm done with that field. That's good. And I can move on to another one. I'm going to show an example next of if you have, it's like an option or drop down field in Tree Plotter. So for a good example of that would be condition. So I'm going to choose condition for my source data and then condition over in Tree Plotter. And so again, I'll get all of my options that exist in the source data. And on the right, I'll have all of our options that we have set up in the Tree Plotter application. And so in this case, it looks like everything maps over pretty good. What you do is you drag all of your options from the left over to the right. So for the null values, I'm going to not map those. Those don't need to be mapped to anything. Dead, I'm going to map to dead. Fair, I'm going to map to fair. Good to good, and poor to poor. This worked out. I mean, it was super easy, but you might have to make some decisions on your own. For example, if you were tracking condition with a so-so or very good, you'd have to decide what you want your very good option to map to one of the Tree Plotter options. But if everything matches up exactly with the options we have in Tree Plotter, it'll be pretty easy to just drag those over to the corresponding values.
So just a clarification. So the reason that we're not mapping the excellent value is because the Portland data does not have that value in its data set. But other communities that do have that value could map that over.
Yes. So in this data set that I pulled from Portland, it was just, I think it's just 7,000 trees. There just doesn't happen to be any trees that have been deemed excellent. So that's why excellent doesn't show up on this list on the left. Mm-hmm. But if there was, you would just drag it to the excellent option over on the right, which are all of the Tree Plotter options. So again, when you're done with all your mappings, and again, when you're done, you'll know because all of the values turn this lighter gray, meaning that you've mapped it to a destination value. Then you can just click done with this field. And again, I get a little checkbox knowing that I have mapped that field from my source data. So those are the two most common types of data fields, ones where you're going to have to match values to another value in Tree Plotter, or you can just copy your data over. And then the other most common one is like species values. And for this, you can use either Latin or common names, and it'll just autofill in the other based off of our species list that we mentioned last week that Kristen is working on building. So right now it's not 100% complete, but you'll get the idea of how it'll work. So let me choose here. Their Latin name is just in this genus species column from their source data. So I'll choose that. And then it's actually scientific name here. So then I'll choose scientific name on the destination and click up here at the top. And so again, over on the left, we have all of our source. These are all the distinct species values from this Portland data set that I pulled. And then on the right will be our, and it's the species list that we have in the application now, but it'll eventually be the species list that Kristen builds and have all of the species in there. What you'll be able to do is click this Find Matches button. And this is looking through every single option you have on the left and matching it, trying to match it to values on the right. Up here at the top, it'll actually, once you do that, it'll give you the percent species that you have mapped. So just by doing the find matches, it was able to find 80% of the species on its own. And then you know that it found it is, again, because it grayed it out. All the ones that aren't grayed out, you'll have to kind of hand map those. So that'll be the process that we just talked about for the condition fields, where you're dragging an option from the source data over into the tree plotter species list data. You aren't actually able to add species at this point. And so this is why we're working on building a really robust, clean species list that will be over here on the right, that you'll be able to drag any values that it doesn't automatically find over to those values. Once you have mapped all of your values, I'm not actually going to go through and map all these unmapped species, but you'll get to 100% up here at the top, and then you can click Done with this field. And so this is the process of crosswalking. You'll go through all of the fields that you want to bring over. You don't necessarily have to bring over every single field that you have in your upload data, but you can if you want, choosing the column on the left and the field on the right to map it over into. Once you're good with all of your data mappings, you'll just click Next here. And then the very last step, you'll just kind of get a quick summary of the trees you're about to upload. So in this case, I'm about to upload 7,000 trees. Because I didn't map all of my species, I just have that 80% match at this point. And then you also get just kind of a unique upload ID at the top. The last step is just click Import trees to the map. I am getting this warning saying that I haven't mapped all 100% of my species because I didn't take the time to crosswalk those all over. I'm just going to say for now, for this test one, that's okay. Continue, I'm done. And then it'll work on adding all of those trees into, in this case, I added them into that test site. So we'll see them in the test site once they upload. And so, Kristen, if you want to touch on, I think you maybe explain to people how you are going to kind of work with everyone on uploading the data, I think.
Yes, I just have a very quick question first.
Yep.
Charlie, if they have inspection data or other report type data that they've also captured, does it go through a similar type of crosswalk process, or is it just uploaded specifically the way the city has recorded it?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it'll have to kind of depend on what the data looks like. There's a lot of different formats for like inspections or other documents or things associated with the trees. So it won't necessarily go through the uploader unless it will be mapped to a field in the tree details form.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So apropos of what Charlie just mentioned, again, the exporting of data and the uploading, the crosswalking of data is something that I will be working with cities that already have inventories, that already have data. And it's going to be one of those things probably where you're going to share your data. I will be working with it, and then as I have questions about it or need to work with you, we'll either connect on Zoom or on phone or whatever if I have questions, but it should be fairly straightforward. Well, I was going to say something else, but I can't remember what it was. Oh, for the cities, again, that are starting off for the first time using this, this platform and using it for the first inventory ever that they're doing, of course, all of the information that they collect are just, it's just going to go right in. And as I've said in some of our outreach materials, again, your city can choose to remain with the system that it has, and that's totally cool. We are primarily interested in having your city's tree data to build out the statewide tree database. So please don't feel any pressure to use Tree Plotter if you're happy with the system you have, but we really would love to have your tree data so that we can show the distribution and types of trees that are found across the state. Okay, so I'm seeing a couple of questions in a chat. I know, okay, a couple of questions. One person in a previous chat said, is there a way, in any way, to see the work history data uploaded in the practice version of the system? And unless you have, maybe there's something that you have on your site for that rather than on our particular system, but I don't know. Because I think when you were showing the reports of the different trees, there was the option of being able to view the inspection data or the work history or whatever.
Yep.
And none of that has been uploaded into this system yet, so into our state system yet. So I don't think we have that to show.
Correct. We don't have, so the inspection data and the work history data or work activities, that data, I mean, we can work with the cities, I think, and see what it kind of looks like now, but, and I think we haven't even, Kristen talked about all of the options we want to add to the list of work tasks here. But right now we don't have a front end tool to allow users to directly kind of mass upload either work history, activity values, or inspection values into the system.
Okay. Okay, so then there's this question, clarification. So the raw data that does not get matched is excluded, correct?
Correct.
And can you match multiple categories of data to one tree plotter data category? For example, could you have matched multiple fir species from raw data to one tree plotter AB's category?
Yep. That's a good question. You can drag as many when that species matching over to, yeah. And I think a lot of the species might have just a generic species values. So if you can always drag multiple to one of the tree plotter values.
Okay, so then another question is, if we submit our data now and then continue an inventory with our existing system, is there an easy way to replace the previous submittal?
The easiest way is going to just be to re-upload it once. And again, maybe it's every year, maybe it's every 6 months, but it'll be to just, if you're going to work in a different system, the easiest will be to just re-upload on a consistent basis.
Okay. But because it's already been crosswalked, it would just be a tweaking thing, not the whole thing again, or would it be the whole thing again?
It's going to be the whole process again. If you kind of have matched your fields and values and things like that, it'll definitely be easier after you've done that first one.
Okay. So that it won't result in duplicates.
Yep.
Okay, I also have a question here. Is it possible for you to show what a work history would look like? I don't
Yep.
think we have it on our.
So this is kind of the simple work history tracking that we have set up. And again, we haven't talked through all of the options we want to have in this list for tasks that would be tracked on the tree. But all it is, it's pretty simple. You just check whatever you did on the tree. If you did multiple, you can check multiple. The date will fill in with today's date, or if you want to change the date, you can add any additional notes, and you just click submit. So it's a very simple tracking of work that's been done on the tree. And then for this specific tree, you'll get this data table that's built out. And as you add to it, it'll just continue building. But it's nice because you can, again, filter on these work history activities, or pull up that work history activities report. That's just a pre-made report that just pulls from all of this data.
Oh, cool. Okay. So one person was asking about, he was sort of in and out last week. What is the login info again for the demo, I guess? And I think that can go out in the email, the follow-up email, right?
Yep, it went out in an email from, I think it came from Planet Geo. I think we sent it out 2 days ago, that had the username and password for that demo account, and we'll also send out a follow-up with the account information for that.
And so for the individual cities, to get their own, if they're ready to start and get their own, admin login information, one thing we still need to do is we need to, if we haven't already, I need to check, we'll put a city level administrator in there, so that that person will have more access to the to manipulating the city information, so to speak. Whereas what we have now is we have the administrative level, which is basically now kind of like at the state level, and then we had user access, but we need an intermediary level so that people who are sort of in charge of their city's data, tree data, can access that and use the and change the data if they need to.
Yep, and that is set up, Kristen. I got that.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
okay. Here's a question. If we want to use the inspection service, for example, level 2 basic assessments with tree plotter, how much does this add-on cost? Probably need to talk with you guys, right?
Yeah, and I'm not a good person to ask. I'm not positive off the top of my head. But we can, if you reach out to either support@planetgeo.com, we can put you in touch with our account manager, Beth, who deals with all of the additional add-ons or the money stuff.
Okay. Am I seeing everybody? Okay. I only have a couple here in the questions and a few in the chats. Okay, in terms of when there's an estimate on the improvement of the tree species list, I am working on it. I hope to get it done by the end of next week. If people have concerns about special trees that you have in your cities that you think might not be on the list, or specific cultivated varieties that you are intending to use or have in your city that you think may not be on the list, please feel free to send those to me. I mean, I have everything there from petunias and epaulet trees and all sorts of things. So it's pretty comprehensive, but if you're concerned and want to make it onto that first major list, please let me know. Let's see. As for that, I don't see any other things coming through. And as I said, I will be sending the intake form, so to speak, out to all of you, if not tomorrow, then on Monday, to begin to get this process started and to let it so that you guys can get in. Let me see if I have any more. How are we doing on time? Oh, it's 2:28. I guess we're just about done. Well, Charlie, I just want to thank you for your taking the time to show this off to everybody. I know that there are going to be learning curves, very steep learning curves as far as I'm concerned. So I know you guys are famous for your customer support. So I'm sure we'll be taking advantage of that. And I really appreciate your being able to walk this through and tell us about it. And I can't wait to get started and have Oregon get its trees on the map, so to speak. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, no problem. And well, I think it maybe make sense, Kristen, to just I'll plan on sending out a follow-up email tomorrow and not wait for that YouTube link, and we can always send another follow-up email when we get those.
Good idea.
Yep, and that will include the demo information, the URL, and I'll also put a link to our support page and videos that are on there too.
Excellent. Excellent. So, well. Okay, well, without further ado, I think I'll let everybody get on with their day. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and I hope to be hearing from everybody soon. And you guys at Planet Geo, you'll be hearing from me. So,
Yep.
so thank you. Please take care of yourselves. And these are weird times, but looking at trees, keeping our distance from each other is one of the things we can certainly do. So, so take care. So thank you.
Thanks, Kristen.
Yep.
See ya.